Hello and welcome to the chaos. This is going to be an educational style video rather than the vlog style that I've been doing more recently. I wanted to start a series on business basics. I don't know how many videos are going to be in this series, um, and I don't have an exact schedule of when they're going to come out. I need to actually sit down and plan out what all subjects I want to cover. But for this first one, I want to cover pricing. It's a question that's been coming up a lot in some of the groups that I have been in, how to price this item or that item, where people, in the Discord group especially, will post a photo of something that they've made and ask, what would you price this at? And then get a bunch of responses from a bunch of different people in the Discord group. And I have a pretty standard response that I give that I feel is a very fair way to price things. So I figured if so many people in just my little Discord group are having this kind of issue coming up with fair pricing for their products, then that may apply to several of you as well. And I don't think this has been specifically handled in an educational, instructive manner in YouTube videos before, at least not any that I've seen. I've seen other creators talk about their pricing, sometimes give a little example of how they price things or why, but nobody that's really given any kind of a breakdown into this is how you start to finish would price a plushie. So that's my goal for today's video, is to do just that. We're going to be making the No Sew Mini Axolotl, which is a Crochet by Jenna pattern. So here's the pattern. I have this pulled up in my row counter app, which let me show you what the actual icon looks like. So this icon right here that looks like a red box with a skein of yarn, a couple of balls of yarn, and scissors and stuff on top of it. That's the row counter app. I think it's made by Ravelry.com, or I know it's linked to them, so I think it may be actually made by them. But this app, I like this app because it allows you to take notes on patterns. You load your PDF patterns into it. It allows you to take notes on patterns, to mark up patterns like directly on the screen with a stylus. You can write on it, highlight certain phrases, circle things, whatever you want to do. It also has a timer on it, so it'll keep track of your time, and it has a counter so that you can tap upward to count your stitches, count your rows, whatever it is you need to count. So I will be using this because not only can I see my pattern right here in front of me, but I can also time myself as I'm going along, which, as we will discuss in a minute, is a very important part of pricing your plushies. So there are two, no, three main focuses on how to price your plushie. Okay. Um, Number one main focus is time. And that's going to be the number one thing for all plushies. That's where most of the cost of the plushie is going to come from, not from the materials, but from your time. Okay. So, in order to accurately price a plushie according to the time, you do need to time yourself making it. Now, the great news is you don't have to time each and every plushie that you make, especially if you're market prepping and you're going to be making several of the same thing, or you have a set stock that you like to keep up with. So in that case, you only need to time yourself really one time, and that's going to be the time for that particular plushie. Mark it down somewhere. I keep an Excel spreadsheet of this information, um, and that'll be your price for that plushie whenever you make it. Now, here's the other thing about time. Some people are like, I don't know how to time myself, or what needs to be marked down. And some people say, well, it takes so much longer some days to make things than on others because I get distracted and my kids come in the room, or I have to put it down and go do something. You're not timing that, right? You're not going to charge your customer for the amount of time that your kids came in and asked questions and you had to put everything down and answer your kids' questions, and then you picked your crochet back up later. You're not charging your customer for that time. That time's not going to them. That's your time that you're spending with your kids. So that does not count into the ultimate price. So when you're timing yourself, if you want to do it all in one go, You need to make sure that you can set aside a block of time to get whatever project it is finished, start to finish, with no distractions. If, like for me, that seems an impossible task, then you just need to time the only amount of time that the hook is in your hands and you're moving. So if you stop for any reason, you pause that timer. You do whatever it is you need to do, you come back to it, unpause the timer, and go again. Another thing that I like to do, especially for plushies that require multiple pieces that may wind up being sewn on later, is that I will time each individual piece and mark that down as I go along. So that if I get the arms of something done today, but I don't get the legs done till tomorrow or whatever, it's not one timer that I'm trying to keep up with all throughout all of that project. I will time usually the second leg because I generally need the first one to kind of figure myself out a little bit. But I'll time one limb, and if there's 2 of those or 4 of those or however many there are of those, then I will times it by that and say, okay, mark down the legs on this plushie took 15 minutes altogether. The ears on this plushie took 6 minutes altogether. And I'll have a list of little times for body parts like that, and then I can get a total time at the end for that. And that works really well for the larger plushies that you're going to be putting down and picking up multiple times and maybe not finish in one sitting. For little ones that you're going to finish in one sitting, just go ahead and time the whole thing. As long as you don't think, as long as you're not in the midst of a bunch of distractions and chaos. Because you want to be fair to your customer. You do want to charge for the time that you spent making it, but only the time you spent actually making it. You don't want to charge for time you spent doing other things because that doesn't benefit your customer at all. That's not what they're paying for. That's my little rant on time. Time yourself. The other thing about timing is that you don't want to time a plushie if it's the first time you've ever made it, because you're going to take a little extra time reading the pattern. Sometimes you may need to frog a row or two because you've misread your pattern. So you want to time yourself on the second time that you've made it. Or, like I said, if it's a bigger one and you may not make more than one, maybe this is a custom request or something like that, time it in pieces. And that way you get a more accurate time. So you're not overcharging your customer for your time. But you do want to charge for your time and charge fairly. So once you've timed your plushie, you know how long you've spent on it. You need to know how much is your time worth per hour. For me, that's $20. I charge $20 an hour for my plushies. I do know that other people charge less. Some people charge a little more. It all just depends. I'm just basing that on minimum wage being like an entry level position is generally 12-ish dollars an hour in most places. There are some places where it's higher, where it's like 15 or more dollars an hour. Minimum wage is about $12 an hour. Now, I could just charge minimum wage, but I've been crocheting for 30 years now, and I do believe that my time and my experience has qualified me for a little bit higher of an asking wage. So I start with that $12 an hour, and I think that for the 30 years that I have spent crocheting, that I am entitled to that extra $8 an hour. So that's what I price my plushies at. I'm also a very fast crocheter. And I don't think that I should be penalized for having a high enough skill to get things done faster than maybe other people do. So all of that factors into what I decided my hourly rate would be. So you will have to decide for yourself what your hourly rate should be. And once you have decided, stick with it. Don't think that just because it winds up making your plushie a more expensive one than you thought it would be, that you should lower it and dig into that hourly rate. You pay yourself your hourly rate. If you're worth that $15 an hour, $20 an hour, $25 an hour, whatever it is, if your time is worth that, then that's what you charge for that plushie. And somebody out there will buy it, even if it's higher than you thought it should be. Somebody out there will want that plushie enough to pay that price for it and won't even blink. It may take a little longer. It may ride it to a few shows with you, or may sit on your Etsy webpage for a little bit longer than you expect, but it will sell. The right person will pick it up. Okay, so that's my rant on timing yourself. The other thing that you need to account for is materials. Now, materials is your yarn, your polyfill, if you're using polyfill, your safety eyes, if you're using safety eyes, or any other materials that go into actually making the plushie. I don't generally include any kind of a surcharge for my tools, my crochet hooks and whatnot. I think I know there are some people who do, but I generally don't, and I think it's fine either way. I just don't. Um, in order to accurately charge for your materials, first you need to know what your materials are worth. So in order to do that, you take whatever it is, whatever yarn it is your favorite to use, and you figure out what is the usual retail price in your area for that yarn. For me, it's Bernat Blanket. That's my favorite one to use. And generally, it's going to be $12.99 a skein at Michael's. That's without coupons, without sales, without anything like that. That is the price you're going to use to charge for your materials. Not when you got it at Ollie's for $5 a skein. Not when you found it in a thrift store for $5 a skein. Not when you used a coupon and got $20 off your whole order. That's not the price you use. The price you use is that retail market price of $12.99 a skein, or whatever it is in your area, for whatever yarn you choose to use, online, whatever. The reason that you do not charge what you got the yarn for on sale is that you can't ever guarantee that you'll be able to get the yarn on that sale price again. If you did, that's fantastic. That's extra profit in your pocket. But that's not what you're going to price your plushies at. You need to price according to, you need this yarn for this next plushie, and you can only find it at $12.99. That's what you price it at, because you can't ever guarantee that sale price. So you take your $12.99 a skein. Like I said, mine is Bernat Blanket, and Bernat Blanket comes in 300 grams in their standard sized ball. So you take your 300 grams, your $11.99, and divide it by 300, and then you get a price per gram. I did that for each yarn type that I like to use. So it's Bernat Blanket, Premier Parfait Chunky, Premier Chenille Basics, Chenille Home Slim. I have it calculated out for that, although I don't like to use that one very often. But I have that price calculated out just in case. Trying to think if there's anything else. Oh yeah, and Posh / Naughty Ball, all of that. So when I figured out the per gram cost of each one of those types of yarn, I did discover for myself and for my area and for how I can purchase them, they all averaged out to being about 4 cents per gram in cost to me. So I don't worry about what type of yarn I'm using anymore. I have my spreadsheet set up to calculate 4 cents per gram, just yarn. That way I'm not having to plug in different numbers for each different type of yarn. Now, if you calculate your yarn weights out per gram like that, and it turns out to be vastly different from brand to brand, then you may want to make sure you're accounting for that different type of yarn. For me, it averaged out, so 4 cents a gram is what I charge for yarn. Polyfill, same deal. Figure out how much you're spending on your polyfill. I go by the 5-pound box because that's how I usually order it. If you purchase it in smaller package sizes, it is going to be more expensive per gram, because that's just how it works. I probably could get it a little cheaper per gram if I went with a bigger sized package than the 5-pound box, but the 5-pound box is about the biggest I want to store at any given time. So I'm probably not going to order anything bigger than that. So that's what I decided on for my uses. If for your purposes, say you're in a smaller place than I am, you have a tiny apartment, and you just can't keep hold of a giant box of yarn or a polyfill all the time, so you're getting the smaller bags, then that's what you need to price for. Whatever your materials are, that's what you price for. So for me, I'm blanking off the top of my head, but I think it was 2 cents a gram when I calculated that out for the polyfill. This is why I put everything in spreadsheets, so I don't have to keep it all in my head. But you need to know price per weight. And the reason we need to know that is because we are going to weigh our plushies to find out exactly how much of each material we used, and that's going to calculate into our cost. So those are the two main things you need to know: is your time spent and the materials used in your plushies. So for things that are not charged by weight, I generally charge by unit. So for my basic safety eyes, it's however many are come in a package when I order it from Amazon. That's where I order just the plain basic black ones. Divided, so however many are in there, the price of the package divided by how many are in there gives you price per eye. And then of course I'll charge times two if it's something that has two eyes, or if I'm doing like a spider that has like 8 eyes, then I'll upcharge it like that to cover the cost of those safety eyes. And then any other pieces, any other bits and pieces that are going into it. So if you're accessorizing your doll with anything extra, you need to charge individually for those extra pieces. Painted safety eyes, those are going to cost more. Those are going to add a lot more to the cost of your plushie. So for those, if you're buying them from other people, of course, then you take whatever they charged you for the pair of eyes, and you're going to add that into your calculations. If you paint your own safety eyes and sell them, then what you need to do is add in whatever you would charge for those eyes into the cost of your plushie, because using them in your own plushie means you're not getting the profit of selling them to someone else. Does that make sense? So I paint and sell safety eyes. Generally, I use 25 through 35 millimeter sized eyes in my plushies, and those I charge $5 a piece for on my website, or a pair, $5 a pair on my website. So if I use one of my own eyes, no, it didn't cost me $5 to make and paint them, but it did cost me making the sale to someone else because I use them for myself. Does that make sense? So $5 a pair if I'm going to use my own painted safety eyes. And so those I generally save for the really big plushies that are very special, and having that extra touch just makes it all the more special. If I'm making something small, like the axolotl that we'll be making today, I'm just going to stick with the standard black safety eyes or embroidered eyes so that the price stays reasonable. So that's materials. The third thing, so I told you there's three major things. So the third thing that you need to account for is going to be taxes and fees. If you're selling online, you need to account for Etsy fees or for whatever store fees you have for your online shop. If you're selling in a store and they take a commission, or they take a monthly rental, or whatever they take, you need to account for that in your plushies as well. And if you're selling in person or selling at a market, you need to account for the sales tax of your state, because you have to pay that sales tax regardless of whether you charge it in your plushie or not. So I prefer to charge it in my plushie. For my state, sales tax is 7%. So I do add a 7% charge on top of, once I calculate everything else, then I'll add that 7% in at the end to cover the sales tax that I will have to charge when I sell in person. For Etsy, it's an additional, I think I did 15%. So 15%, because I went through several different blogs and Etsy informational, educational, YouTube videos and such, and to add it all together, the fees that Etsy charges, plus the shipping, plus the fee of listing the item, plus what was the other thing? That was it. But all of those together rounded up to about 15% extra, or 15% that Etsy was taking from the item. So I increased by 15% for Etsy specifically. So it may be different if you're on Shopify, or if you're on GoImagine, or one of the other online websites. So you just need to look up what fees are being charged to you so that you can then build that fee into your pricing. So the first step that we are going to do is actually to weigh our yarn. I'm going to be making an axolotl with these two colors. This is the body and this will be the gills. So I'm going to weigh these two together on my scale and just mark it down somewhere so I know how much yarn I started with. You can weigh the entire plushie when you're finished and kind of get an estimate of yarn versus fiber fill. And I do that sometimes when I forget to weigh first. Generally, the yarn is heavier than fiber fill and accounts for about 2/3 of the plushie's final weight, and the fiber fill counts for about 1/3. But for the purposes of this video, I want to get it as accurate as possible. So we're going to start by weighing our yarn. So I'm going to pause you for a moment while I go do that, and I will let you know what we come up with. I'm back. So we are starting with 144 grams of yarn. Now, I might wind up using up all of this little ball. I will definitely not use up all of this. But once we are finished with the plushie and ready for the next step, then we'll weigh whatever's left of the yarn, and that'll give us an exact number of how much yarn we used in grams. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on making this axolotl. And like I said, my app here will keep track of my time. I've already got a time in there from the last time I made this, so I'm going to erase that so I can start fresh. So I'm going to make this axolotl, and I will come back to you when I'm finished and let you know how much time it took. And then we'll move on from there to the next step. And I'll be back in a minute. Okay, and we're back, and the little axolotl is finished. So here he is all done. Super cute little pattern. I'm about half and half whether I do the pattern in this direction or if I do it this direction and put his face like here and like do surface crochet the gills the other direction so that he looks like he's laying on his back. This time I just went straight with the way the pattern is written. Oh, I got some fluff hanging out here. Fluff. I will have to lint roller this guy. There's always fluff. You know how it goes. So anyway, so he's all finished. So now we're going to move on to the next step of figuring out how we're going to price this adorable little cutie. And I did actually have more of that blue, the main body yarn left than I thought I would. I might even be able to get an entire other axolotl out of this, which would be pretty cool because this blue color is really popular for me. So next step is going to be, time. So my timer took 31 minutes and 9 seconds. I like to have a round number when I'm doing it. So I'm going to just say 30 minutes and say that extra 1 minute was probably me getting slightly distracted by something and just taking a little extra time. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say 30 minutes on this guy, start to finish, showing in the ends and everything. So it's pretty good. Oh, stitch marker's still on. Let me put it up before I lose it in my little Pop-Tart stitch marker. Okay, so the next step then is going to be to weigh the balls of yarn after he's finished. And then we'll be able to tell exactly how much yarn we used with him. And then we're going to weigh him and subtract that yarn weight from his total weight to tell us how much filling we used for him. So I'm going to go weigh the yarn real quick and weigh him real quick, and then we'll do that math and I'll come back to you. Okay, so leftover yarn was 94 grams. Remember, we started with 144. So if we subtract that, that gives us 140 minus 90 is, oh my goodness, my brain does not want to work at all. 50 total grams? Yes, 50 grams even. That's interesting. I never get an even number like that. That's really interesting. Okay, so 50 grams of yarn. The axolotl himself measured at 86 grams total. So if we take the 50 grams out of that, so 86 minus 50 grams equals 36 total grams of filling. I'm just taking notes on a little note card of that right now. Okay, so we have 50 grams of yarn, 36 grams of filling. And you can kind of see where I got my, on average, 2/3 is yarn, 1/3 is filling, because the total was at 86 grams, remember. And our time, let me write that down, was 30 minutes. Okay, so here is the formula that we're going to use now that we have our foundation numbers. Here's the formula that we're going to use for pricing our items. We're going to start with our time. Our time is 30 minutes. I charge $20 per hour. So that means $10 in time. Okay, so I'm going to write that down. Time, $10. Okay, the yarn was 50 grams. And remember I said it's 4 cents a gram is what my yarn costs me. So let me get to my calculator here on my watch real quick. So 50 grams times 0.04. Oh my goodness, the screen is so small. My fingers are so big. Is 2. So $2 in yarn. Okay, filling was 36 grams at 2 cents a gram. So 36 times 0.02 is 72 cents. So filling is 72 cents. Okay, and I can't remember off the top of my head what the price point on the safety eyes is, but I'm going to just throw out there 5 cents per eye, just for the sake of example, just so we can work out our total here. So if it was 5 cents per eye and I used 2 safety eyes, then that's 10 cents for the eyes. Okay, so now we have our time and our material cost of material all listed out. So this is going to be backwards to you guys, but I think I can flip it in post. So we got our time, $10, $2 for the yarn, 72 cents for the filling, 10 cents for the eyes. So that's our cost. So we're going to do cost of materials. We're going to do our time plus the cost of materials times 3. Okay, so our total cost of materials is $2.82. Now we want to times that by 3. Now, why are you ask? Are we timesing this by 3? Because you have to pay for the materials that you used to make the original plushie. Okay, so that 282 covers just this. You have to pay to make another one to replace this plushie. So that's times 2. That's another 282. And you want to be able to grow your business. So you want to then be able to make a third plushie so that your business can grow, because you don't want to remain stagnant. You don't want to just make and replace, make and replace. You want to grow. That's why it's times 3. So our 282 times 3 I could probably do this math in my head, but I don't want to. 282 times 3 equals 846. Okay? So we're at $10 in time and 846 in materials plus replacement of materials plus growth of materials, right? Okay? So total now we are at 1846. But that's not where we stop. Okay? Here at this point, you decide, where is this plushie going to be sold? For this particular one, I'm going to price it as if it's going into a market stall, because I believe that that will be the most common one across the board. And also, I don't know what your online store fees are going to be, and so to add that in, may confuse people who are using a different storefront. Okay, so we're at 1846 right now. So now we need to know, when we sell this at market, what do we need to charge for our state taxes? For my state, it is 7%, 7 cents on a dollar in taxes. So you need to know what your state tax is. And now you're going to take that number, which for me right now is 1846, times 7%. Let me get my handy dandy calculator out again. I don't know why my watch keeps going out of the calculator in between every time. So we have 1846 times 0.07 equals, so tax is going to be $1.29, and we're going to add that to the 1846. So plus 18.46 equals 1975. All right, so that gives me 1975 is my bare minimum price for this plushie at a market to just barely make profit. Okay. At this point, you can decide on a percentage if you want to have a certain amount of profit above and beyond this. I generally don't add a specific percentage of profit. I kind of look at the size of it compared to some of the sizes of other plushies that I have. And as long as I meet that bare minimum, I can add a couple of dollars on so that it fits within a category. I do that for my own ease, honestly. That's why. Because while, yes, I could charge $19.75 with a credit card pretty easily, it's a lot more difficult to do that with cash. And I don't want to be dealing with quarters and, nickels and dimes and all that. I honestly don't even want to deal with dollar bills as much as I can get away with not. So this would either be a flat 20 to just barely scrape profit there, or I can bump it up to 25. Now this does fit into the sizing of my $25 things. So that's probably what the price tag that I'm going to put on this is, $25. And the reason you do want to try to bump it up just a smidgen would be to help offset the cost of booth fees. Again, I'm not charging a specific percentage for those because those are going to be different for every market. My local markets, to me, I generally only pay $20 to $25 for a booth fee for those really little local ones. And I do fairly well. They're steady. They're not like huge amounts of money rolling in, but they're steady, and with a low booth fee, they're great. But then I also have done other big markets where I have a booth fee of more than $100. Um, I've applied to some Comic Cons. I haven't got into any yet, but if I do get into those, then I'm looking at booth fees of $300 plus. So you see how you would want to be able to offset some of those booth fees or without it eating too far into your profits. So that's why this particular plushie for me is going to be $25. Now for you, it may wind up being a little bit different, and that depends on how you're going to charge your time mostly. You see how most of the money came from the cost of time for this guy. So again, that is time times your hourly rate plus materials times 3 plus percentage for state tax. Those 3 things added together got us to our base minimum. And then from there, you can fudge it however you want to fudge it to fit your model. You may want to just say $19 and be done with it and, charge the bare minimum. You may want to do like I do and add a couple of bucks on to help offset other fees. Then again, if you're going to set it up for sale on Etsy or some other shopping platform, remember that then on top of what we just did, add the extra percentage for your commission for the whatever Etsy fees are, or the storefront that you're, you know, um, consigning at, if there's a consignment fee or a rental fee for that kind of thing. Okay. So that right there is just the very baseline how to price a plushie from start to finish. Um, I hope that was concise. I hope that was understandable and that it's helpful to you. I tend to have all of this stuff in a spreadsheet that I created in Microsoft Excel. Um, I am happy to share just the basic pricing tool. It's just a very simple Google Sheets that I have. So if that is something you are interested in, I can definitely post a link and share that for anybody who wants to make a copy of that. In fact, I may just, yeah, if you want that, I'll make a blank copy of it and share the blank copy. That way there won't be any accidents with anybody um, changing up my formulas and messing up my tool that I use on a day-to-day basis. Um, but yeah, so I do have a tool that on one side of the form, you would plug in your cost per gram of your materials and all in a line. And then this part over here will pull from that first part. So once you set those costs, you don't ever touch this part again. And then over here, you put in how many grams of each thing you've used, how many minutes you've put in to making it, and it will calculate out. And it'll even have a place to calculate sales tax if you so desire. Um, so yeah, so that is it. That is pricing your plushies. And if you follow a formula like this, then you can be confident that you have priced your plushies fairly, paid yourself fairly, and they're not overcharging your customer and also not undercutting yourself and other crocheters. Because this is a really important lesson, I think, for especially people who are new to the game and who are learning how to make this into a business for themselves. Uh, if you undercut your pricing, you're not just hurting yourself, you're hurting everybody in your area that is trying to make a business for themselves selling these plushies. So you may be a hobbyist watching this video right now and thinking, I don't need this. I really just want to make the money back that I spend on my yarn. And that's all well and good. But if you're doing that and selling at markets and there's somebody there who's trying to make a living out of this, and somebody's coming through and they see at your booth that they can get this little chicken for $5 because you only spent $1.50 on yarn and that's all you really want to get back out of it. But at this other booth, this person has the same exact chicken pattern, say the Mabel chicken, for example, because everybody's been doing that one lately for the past year or so. And they're charging 15 instead of 5 because they're actually charging for their time that they spent making it, plus the materials and sales tax and all that kind of thing. Then obviously they're not going to buy the $15 chicken because they can get the exact same chicken for $5. So then you're cutting out, yes, you're paying back your yarn, but you're cutting out this other legitimate business person who is trying to make a living and perhaps even replace a brick and mortar, outside the home type job so that they can still help provide for their family, but do it in a way that they're working for themselves. Um, and it hurts the market as a whole. Um, So I just ask, even if you are just a hobbyist, even if you're just doing this because you enjoy making things and you make so many things that you don't have space for them in your home anymore, please price your things fairly. It really is helpful for everyone in the long run. If everyone is able to follow a similar sort of formula and price the way things should be priced, then nobody's getting cut out of sales. They'll still buy from you, even if you have your prices up, because everyone else will be on the same board, you know? Everybody's gonna be charging $15 for that chicken then. And so they'll get it from you or from them because they like this color or that color better. And it'll boil down to preference like that rather than um, cutting somebody's legs out from under them with unfair pricing. So please, please don't take offense, but please, please price your plushies fairly. And I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope that this makes things easier for you and clears up some of the questions of, I made this thing and I just don't know what it should cost. And if you follow this formula every time, you don't have to worry about, oh, I just don't know. Am I charging too much? Am I charging too little? Because it's there and it's mathematical and it makes sense. And you don't have to, second guess yourself because it's not just some number you pulled out of your butt. Just being honest with you. So Hopefully I haven't lost a whole lot of viewers by sharing some very strong opinions, but I also really, really hope that I've been helpful. If I have, if you like this, you want to see more business tips, if you're wondering, why the heck is this crazy lady offering me business tips when she only has like 200 people watching her videos? I will say, if it makes you feel better, I have been running my own business for almost 20 years now. I have been an entrepreneur in various businesses, not just crochet. I have been doing independent contracting for years and years and years and years and years. I've worked for other people as well, but I've worked for myself longer than I've worked for anyone else. And so I've had to learn how to earn a wage, earn my wage, and set it for myself based on what I know that I'm worth. So I do have some experience, just real world experience. I know it's not the same as YouTube clout, but it's something. Oh, hi, dog. You guys want to say hi to the dog? Come here, dog. Come say hi. Hi to the people. Yes, you're a giant. Oh my goodness. He's a giant cuddle bug. Don't lick me. Don't lick me. Don't want your slobber. All right, we said hi. Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, this dog. He thinks he's a lap dog, and he's killing my son. Okay. That's all I have for today. I really, really hope this has been helpful, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.